Hey everybody, welcome to Whiskey Book. Today, we've got people who live in houses with round doors and round bottled whiskey. Stay tuned. Hi all, welcome back to Whiskey Book. Motorcycle Mike and I have a treat because I get to review or go over a classic, The Hobbit. This awesome book made into a movie. Probably all seen it. If you haven't, what are you doing here? Watch that movie. And so on Whiskey Book, we like to go over my two loves, books and whiskey. And the whiskey we're comparing or relating The Hobbit to is Blantons. And as we go, you're going to understand why these two work well together or why one relates to another. So what do we have here? First thing we're going to do is I'm going to pour some Blantons. And as you can tell, this is not a new bottle, not by a long shot. And yes, for anybody who knows much about whiskey hunting and finding whiskey, you can see I got some boxes over here. I'm very fortunate to have those. These are not easy to find all the time. And when you find them, sometimes the prices are outrageous. This bottle, I wouldn't pay over $80 for. And I've seen it for up to 160. Yeah, that's probably the highest I've seen it. But I'm going to pour a little bit of this because, again, this is a special episode, a special book, a special whiskey. I just purchased a Jeep last week, so I'm kind of celebrating. I've been wanting a Jeep my entire adult life and maybe even farther back than that. So, cheers to me. So I'm going to take a little sip, get the palate warmed up, and then we'll get into the nose and palate of the whiskey a little bit later. Just do a quick one right now. Little citrus mixed with light vanilla right off the bat. Carries over to the flavors too. Creamy vanilla, a little bread tasting, fills the mouth, coats the mouth. It's got a little bit of legs on it, and boy, you get the citrus. So this has a very citrusy punch up front, and the coating is vanilla cream, and it's not super proofy. It's 93 proof. It's not super powerful, but that works for today, and it works for me. So let's get into the book, The Hobbit. Okay, children's fantasies, what this was rated as. It's a light read. This book here is a little about 300 pages, this size. I read this once when I was in the hospital and kind of waiting for surgery and post-surgery. I finished the book. It's awesome. The movie relates, as far as movie-book relations go, it's not bad. I know the Hobbit trilogy by Peter Jackson isn't up to par with Lord of the Rings, but the story itself follows the book pretty decently. And so what is this book? Hobbit, published 1937. It's a journey. And that's why this is so cool, because the book is about a journey. And back to relations, whiskey, drinking bourbon. It's a journey. When you start your whiskey drinking experience, most people, I think Whiskey Tribe, great YouTube channel. Go like, subscribe, love those guys. They're funny. They're fun to watch. But they talk about how the whiskey journey a lot of times starts with sweet, very light whiskeys, and as you move on into your journey, you build up into higher and higher proofs, less sweet. You'll start maybe moving into more citrus, more fruity, more oak, and then as you go, and if you continue in the journey, you usually end up with the higher proofs and the ones that, like if you drank it, that was the first whiskey you drank, it'd probably knock your socks off. So bourbon hunting is a journey, drinking, finding, getting into the hobby of bourbon or whiskey in general is a journey. The book, The Hobbit, a journey with little people, hobbits, little short people about 3 feet, 4 feet tall. I think they're 3 feet tall. They go from there. Bilbo Baggins, not them. In The Lord of the Rings, it's a them. In The Hobbit, it's a one. It's Bilbo Baggins before he was his 111th birthday. How did he say that? Anyway, these dwarves, these mean, grumpy, cantankerous dwarves come to his house and say, we need to take you on a journey. Come on, motorcycle Michael Mike, stay seated here. And in the movie, it's while he's eating fish, and I hate that scene because that fish looks so good. I want to eat it, and yeah, I understand his anger. So Bilbo Baggins is sitting in his home with his round door, and these dwarves show up, and Gandalf the wizard shows up, and let's say, we got to go do this. You're going to be our burglar, and we're going to go on a journey, and this journey takes them through. They meet so many characters, and this is where modern fantasy kind of really begins. Tolkien didn't invent a lot of things. In fact, the names of the dwarves, Balin, Dwalin, Keely, Feely, Dory, Nori, yes, I have to read them, Owen, Glowin, and Bifur, and their leader, Thorin Oakenshield, which we'll get to in a second because it relates to whiskey. All the names were taken from a Norse, I wouldn't say mythology, but it's called Vospa, and it's a story. Anyway, we're not going to get into that today, but the names were taking a lot of there's some mythology there, there's some Christianity there, there's a lot taken into this, but hey, isn't every great book a conglomeration of other things? So that's what this is. This journey takes the Hobbit, Gandalf, and the company of dwarves through a magical journey. They go through the Misty Mountains, Mirkwood Forest, where kind of let's step back. The Misty Mountains are important because that's where we first see the goblins, and the goblins are chasing them, and Bilbo gets separated, and who do we meet here? Gollum, one of the most famous characters in all of fantasy. This is where Gollum shows up, and this is where Gollum and Bilbo have a battle of wits. Bilbo wins the ring that makes him invisible, which happens to be the ring in The Lord of the Rings. I'm sorry, but this is in 1937. If this is a spoiler to you, see, Motorcycle Mike, you fell over again. I'm sorry. We'll try not to spoil the ending of this, just in case you haven't read or heard or watched the movie, but there's been time. So they go through Misty Mountains. They make it out of there. Some of them maybe, some of them not. Again, into Mirkwood Forest, where they meet spiders for the first time. Spiders are a huge thing in fantasy. Kind of upsetting because every fantasy video game or book from here on out seems to have very big spiders. Maybe they don't all talk like they do in The Hobbit, but anyway, find out how cool Sting, the sword that Bilbo has, how it works against spiders and how it glows when orcs comes. Pretty cool. They make their way through that. They get entangled into a dungeon. Somehow some of them figure out a way out of that. End up at Lake Town by the old city of Dale, where the men of Dale have lived since Smaug the dragon destroyed the city years ago. He also destroyed Erebor, which was the kingdom of the dwarves that was next to the city of Dale at the same time. And now Smaug lives in Erebor, in the Lonely Mountain. And that is the crux of this story, is the journey to this mountain to defeat a dragon and take the gold and take the mountain and meet all of these interesting people. And it is such a good journey. It is so well paced. It is so well done. For a kid's book, this holds up to the test of time better than serious novels do. And that kind of leads us to where we are in our journey, is while this is a kid's book, it stands up on its own. If you put this up against even its bigger brother, The Lord of the Rings, its younger, bigger brother, it doesn't hold a candle. This isn't going to hold a candle to Game of Thrones. This isn't going to stand up to, and you look behind me, John Gwynn's series, Robert Jordan, The Wheel of Time. Absolutely, this cannot. This is just a sliver of what that can be. But on its own, by itself, if you pick up this book and you just want to read and enjoy, it fits the bill better than most. I would say, and I'll probably do a video on this one later too, this compares not the story-wise, but just in how light it is, but how good it is to The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. Both children's fantasies that have more depth to them than just a base story. But it's really good by itself. In the whiskey community, Blanton's is highly sought after. But if you watch a bunch of Whiskey Tube like I do, because I enjoy it, I like to see what other people say about it. If you watch other Whiskey Tubes, Blanton's doesn't always hold up in blind tasting against other whiskeys. Motorcycle Mike and I are going to have some issues here. This wire's getting out of control. But by itself, this is a good whiskey. It's actually really good, and I'm going to try to prove that, or prove myself wrong, by going a little deeper on it than I did before. So let's try Blanton's whiskey and see if it's as good as the Hobbit. Is this as good as the Hobbit? Or is it just as good as any other whiskey? Why not, right? Okay, right off the nose. I told you before, vanilla. And so in the book, we have Thorin Oakenshield is the leader of the dwarves. He gets that name because of a big battle he had with orcs. He lost his weapons. He picked up a piece of oak, held it in his left arm, his off hand, and he used it as a shield, hence the name Oakenshield. Pretty cool. Well, this bourbon, the nose is vanilla and citrus, but you get that little bit of oak in there. This has a little age on it. It's not a young baby. But is it worthy of the Oakenshield? Let's try it. Okay. Like the book, I think this stands up on its own. I really, really do. Now, caveat. I'm kind of in a transition. I am sort of in that whiskey journey. The transition from sweet whiskeys into, I'm starting to like more oak, a little more spice. I want more flavors. Blanton's used to be my favorite. I was so mad that it's so hard to find because I just love it. I don't. It's cool because people collect these horsey tops, and this might be Bill, the pony from The Hobbit. I don't know. It's not the B though. It's the A, which tells me that maybe that's not Bill. Maybe it's his brother Andy. I don't know. Could be. Andy's a racehorse. Bill wasn't very fast. Bill was a pony. But I digress. This is sweet. Right now, this is really sweet. Lately, I've been into some more just harsher whiskeys, and I used to not be able to take, but this is almost too sweet for me right now, but I get past that sweetness. There is some oak there. There is a vanilla cream. It's almost like a creme brulee, like you just eating the middle, you have the outside that's sometimes a little drier, and then the middle's that really soft, doughy part. That's what's coating the tongue for me. Yeah, on the back of the tongue, that's where Thorin's shield is. That's the oak. Not a ton of it, but there's enough that sits on the back of the tongue that you can feel the oak spice, and that finish is lasting, and I like that. It's not a strong finish like some other whiskeys that you can taste the entire thing, but that oak sits on the back of the tongue, and it really just sits there and says, it reminds you that you had some, The citrus is a punch at the front. It's kind of gone. The vanilla cream stays on the side and the top of the mouth, and it's still, that finish is still staying there too. What I will say, and why I think this probably doesn't hold up to other bourbons if you put them side by side, is very similar to the Hobbit. Very similar. In the Hobbit, I said, the story is made for children. It's simplistic. It's very easy, even though there's some undertones of again, religion, mythology. It's still a very easy read. This is a very easy bourbon, and I can see where next to something else they would give you more flavors. There's not a lot to this. This is kind of just citrus, vanilla, oak in the back, and that's it. Now the flavor is really good. The vanilla is excellent. The coating is excellent. The finish is great. The nose it just has a little vanilla, has a little spice. There's just everything about it is easy and good, just like this book. It's just easy and good. If you wanted to just sit back, relax, have a drink, and say, I don't want to worry about anything, don't want to think about anything, I think this is top notch. Now, if you're in your part of the journey, you're already through Mirkwood Forest, you're getting ready to sneak through the Lonely Mountain and touch the dragon, steal the dragon's gold, you probably want to go with something with a little more punch. Yeah, I'm saying that the finish is still there, which is pretty cool. So if I had to rate these, Blanton's is a hard one to rate. On its own, by itself, I think it's a solid 8. I mean, it's really, really good just sitting here for itself. The Hobbit, I'm giving it a 10. I'm sorry. I know it doesn't hold up to other books, other fantasy series, especially modern fantasy is getting so like in-depth and world building is amazing, but you want words are hard. World building, Tolkien's The Hobbit starts everything, and I know people get mad, well, just because he started it doesn't mean it's the best. No, it's not. And we can never go back and restart. It's like watching Star Wars for the very first time. Like I was a kid, I got to watch it when it first came out. Pretty freaking awesome. And you'll never get that feeling again because everything new kind of surpasses it. But this is still on its own awesome. This on its own, really, really good. I won't say awesome. Really, really good. But together, I could sit back, read this book, drink this bourbon, and have a wonderful time. And having a wonderful time, I'm going to go drink more Blantons. And I appreciate you being here. And I will see you on the next episode of Whiskey Book. Thank you.